Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I know, I'm 2 minutes late, but deal with it. I'm busy. So yeah, we got a good show today. Anyway, this is Yamez with Island Metal Forge. We've got Adam and Alexis. Adam is from Speargrass Forge, and Alexis is from Transcendental Artist Studios. We together are the Impractical Blacksmiths. Let me get into the chat here. We've got John Burnell first, and then Trail Dust. Amy, hey, you doing? Amy's been a while. Then Shane Malone. Uh, Trail Dust, always Trail Dust. Ben Toombs pops in. Scrolling. Y'all are chatty Cathys. We got Jack Pines, and why don't you make this easy and just everybody get in first so that I can read the chat. Yeah. Anyway, and hello to any lurkers and hello to anybody just popping in to see what the heck us idiots are talking about. Anyway, with that, I would like to go ahead and start with the how was your week? So, what do we got? How are y'all doing? I think I need to. You've got a whole presentation for us, don't you, Adam?
Sully, you go first.
Yeah. Mine's pretty.
It'll be the next week.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't. This week, I didn't get. I mean, I worked 2 days, and the weather's like crappy. So it's just been rainy, misty, overcast, blah. And so yeah, I haven't even been outside except for the 2 days I worked. Well, I mean, I did go grocery shopping and stuff on Friday, but other than that, I mean, I've just sat around here all week, reading, watching some Netflix, playing 7 Days to Die for 14, 15, 16 hours straight a couple times. Uh, it's like I get up and it's like I got nothing to do. I guess I'm gonna pour a cup of coffee, and I by the time I finish my second cup of coffee, I go, I wonder what time it is, and I'm like, fuck, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. What? Okay, well, I guess it's time for a beer. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't really want a beer. I'll have iced tea instead. So yeah, it's just been an interesting week. That dang game. Once I get sucked into it, it's like I lose all track of time as I'm watching the time on the game go by, and it's just like I don't know. It is what it is. But
You talking 7 days to die?
Yeah, my week. Yeah, that's it. And my week was just doing that. So I didn't really do anything. So Adam, how about you? We just saw a little bit of what you have going on, and tell us about it.
I had an interesting, I wouldn't say busy, but an interesting week. I did get out the forge. I was actually thinking before the show I didn't really get out the forge, but I actually did. I got out the forge. So, for anyone who's ever bought machetes, and you'll see why I'm talking about machetes in a minute. For anyone who's bought, your big box store machete to do brush clearing or whatnot, knows that they're soft as heck. So this week in the workshop, I actually had to strip down a couple of machetes and reharden and retemper them and actually take the edge off. Now, the reason I had to take the edge off is because I was actually turning them into training weapons. Now, a lot of people know I'm a martial artist, and people can see my HEMA swords behind me. But I also do traditional Chinese Kung Fu, and as part of the training system that I'm in, which a lot of people get a laugh out of the name of the school I'm with, but but I'll get to that in a minute. But as part of that school, we actually do Filipino martial arts, Filipino Eskrima or Kali. Now, any of you that have watched Forge Empire, and everyone always asks me about that, it's the same martial art style that Doug Maikata does. And actually, Doug Maikata is actually in the same lineage as my school under Dan Inosanto. So Dan Inosanto was a grandmaster, and so I trained in a very similar school to Doug Maikata. Doug Maikata's moved in a little bit of a different direction. But yeah, so I do Filipino Eskrima as part of that martial art. Now, this Saturday just gone, for us, so it was Friday Friday for you. It was Saturday afternoon for us, Saturday evening. I had to do a Eskrima demonstration at a Muay Thai event. So Muay Thai fighting, it was a Muay Thai development event. So as part of that, we went there and did a Filipino Eskrima demonstration. So we needed training weapons. So I had to get a couple of store-bought machetes, pull them up, and we trained with the machetes before, and that's how I know they're soft as hell, because we couldn't use them for 5 minutes without doing serious damage to these blades. Insofar that the two that I was originally training with, when I hardened and tempered them, they snapped. Now, they didn't snap because of the stresses in the steel or anything like that. They snapped because I developed microfractures in them. And so when I hardened them and tempered them, they had a fail point and they snapped on me, 2 of them. So that's how I know that store-bought machetes are really, really soft. Soft to the point that they actually haven't been hardened. So if you ever buy a machete, I recommend you actually go through and pull them apart and harden them. Now, anyone that's looking at the screen rather closely can see, and I'll move a little bit closer, I have a little bit of a mark on my forehead. Now, Yamez, if you play the clip, play the fast one first. So we've got 2 clips to show. So this is...
I'm actually not sure which one is playing.
That's the second one. So right at the end of this one, this one's about 50 seconds long. I actually go to do a disarm on my training partner. This is an attack and defense drill. When we're training with sticks, we do actually attempt to try and hit each other here. It's a little bit more tame because we are using weapons. Well, sticks are weapons, but we're using bladed weapons. We don't want to actually hit each other. But yeah, so right at the end, I actually go for a disarm. He changes hands, and as he's coming across with a blunt weapon, he clips me on the face and actually leaves a little bit of a mark. So
I can actually play that again real quick.
Okay, yep, play it again. It's right at the end.
Now that you know which one I'm playing, you can kind of walk us through it.
Yeah. So we're doing here what's called the box pattern. So this is attack and defense sequence where, basically we're going for an overhead strike. It's 1 for 1. So he's one's attacking, go overhead strike into a cut across the gut, into a thrust, into a retaliatory strike, and then it's attack and defense. And we're slowed down a bit there because we've lost the count a bit. Like I said, with sticks, we actually do try and we change it up a bit so that we're attacking from different angles, as long as we're making the same basic movements. And then the next clip is us doing what's called a 6 count. So this is just a pattern that we do. The guy I'm actually doing the demonstration with is actually my teacher, or one of my teachers. And so he's very proficient in it. We can actually go faster than this, but again, we're using metal blades. So we're going fairly quick, but we weren't going too quick. And see, he gets down onto his knees. I get down onto mine just to prove that we can actually go all the way down to the flat of our backs and then fight on the way back up. So that's the reason why I hardened the machetes, to make sure that they were actually useful in and they weren't going to completely destroy themselves, and they weren't going to actually chip. Of course, we're doing this demonstration in an active Muay Thai ring. We didn't want them to chip so that none of the fighters got metal shards in their feet. We didn't want them to break and then fly off into the audience. So I had to make sure that these were safe. In the process of that, of course, like I said, I took the edges off and rounded out the actual blades, rehardened them, retempered them, put new handles on that were a bit more safer than the really soft pine and aluminium rivets that I had in them, and ground the handles down because the handles were oversized as well. But it's like a lot of, and I once I actually thought about it, it's like a lot of match produced or bulk tools, in the sense that they're made, and think of it like a hammer handle. You get a hammer handle, you take it home, and you really want to shape it down to the size that you want to, that you like, that's comfortable for you, that's going to be useful for you. And the machete is a tool, also same as any struck tool. You want to, shape the struck side so that it doesn't mushroom and it bevel it off. The same thing goes for machetes. You want to treat that tool as though and reshape it to use it for your benefit and your uses. So it also reestablished to me that if I go to buy any machetes or whatnot, for even insofar as I'm actually thinking about even axes and stuff like that, if I buy a box, like a big box store axe, I might even harden and retemper it, because that way I know that it's hardened and tempered to my standard, and I'm not going to absolutely destroy it if I come across it, because a lot of people are worried that it's going to chip or whatnot if you hit a nail or whatnot. A good hardened and tempered tool shouldn't do that. Like as you saw, we were using machete steel against steel, and we were using fairly decent force and good speed, and that's there was absolutely nothing wrong with those blades. They were barely even dented after that was a good 5-10 minutes of serious use against each other. That was just a short clip of what we actually did. And we could go over them with a file and take out every single one of those blemishes that we had on the blade. So, this is encouragement to, if you have to buy a big box tool, look at it and I wouldn't say repurpose it, but treat it like a tool that you need to finish. Because, I mean, apart from drill bits or power, most tools are going to be tools that you need to finish to suit the job you need it for. That's my takeaway from the week. Apart from that, I've been working on my book. Now, also on that note, at the end of last episode, is Steve Parsons in the chat at the moment? I haven't seen him. Might have to come back later. But if Steve Parsons in the chat, or if listeners later on, Steve raised a question about colonial American tools at the end of last episode. Now, I do have a couple of resources for anyone that's interested in colonial American items. Now, these aren't just tools. So the first one I'll start with is a book called Early American Ironwork by Wallace Nutting. Okay, so you can find that on a website called the Internet Archive. I will right now. I'll actually drop that in the chat. It'll be a little bit late for you guys, but I'll drop the link for that in the chat. So that covers a whole heap of hardware, like door handles, hinges, all that type of thing, including weather vanes from the early American colonial period. The second one is actually called Furniture of the Pilgrim Century, 1620 to 1720, including colonial utensils and hardware, also by Wallace Nutting. And that is another book. It covers a lot of woodwork, wood furniture as well. Towards the end of the book, it also covers the whole utensils and whatnot. And the last one is called A Museum of Early American Tools. Now, this one you will have to, the other two are free to look at. You don't have to sign up or anything like this. This one you do actually have to have an account with. Now, it doesn't cost you anything for an account on the Internet Archive. It's free. However, you can only borrow these books for about an hour or so. Some of the books are under copyright. So it's just basically it's like a free online library. It's a really handy resource that I've got. So I'm giving you guys that little bit of a hint but if you manage to get a hard copy of A Museum of Early American Tools, it's an illustrated book. It's from 1964. But it does have a good account of tools that were used around the American colonial times, from tools made purely of wood all the way through to your early American axes and different styles of axes depending on different colonies and all that type of stuff. So it's a very interesting book. But yeah, so hope that helped you there, Steve, when you eventually come across this, or someone let him know, and he can come back to the start of this episode and find that resource for himself. So I'll just go through them again just one more time. So that's a Museum of Early American Tools by Eric Sloan from 1964, Wallace Nutting for 2 books, Furniture of the Pilgrim Century 1620 to 1720, and Early American Ironwork also by Wallace Nutting from 1919. So yeah, there you go.
And there you go. Yeah, indeed. Like, there you go. Hey, everybody joining the chat. Wawa Skittles, Eric, how you doing? Yeah. Pretty amazing stuff there, you know. And a great point on the, you know, when you buy tools, you know, they're really unfinished. And we'll try and save those links and drop them in the Discord, because I do know that Mr. Parsons is in the Discord, so you can, you know, tag him in there and get that going. What's up, Boar? So as for my week, I remember last week I was discussing how, you know, work was getting ready to slow down and all that stuff, and yeah, we got a pretty big job. It's a whole house remodel, and in like a house that was built in 1904. So it's like I'm inside this structure. I'm up in the attic for the attic, or the attic's attic, and I'm looking around at some of the, you know, the woodworking while I'm getting, you know, information from the furnace that we've got to run power for. And it's like, man, you know, true 2x4s, and you're looking at some of the wood, and it's like obviously not the cheap pine that we use now. It's like, wow. Pulling, you know, like when we're moving some stuff, pulling out old nails. You know, it's like the homeowner wants to keep all of the old hardware we pull out. So it's like some real cool stuff. But anyway, yeah, that job actually, you know, we're chugging right along on it, and it's supposed to last us a couple of weeks. So it's like, heck yeah, you know, and you know, we'll keep on keeping busy. You know what I mean? And the customers are really, really cool. Like, it was like they do house flipping, so it's like, and they live real close, so it's like, you know, we do bonfire, come on over, you know, like that kind of cool people. And but yeah, just spent the week drilling holes, running wire, tracing stuff. I had to get an entire house in my head with no prints, you know, like I basically had to be from you know, attic to crawl space, you know, following all the wires, all the existing wires, to make sure that I knew what was what, and what went where, and what needed to be rehooked up or replaced. So really, you know, making my brain work overtime on that one. But I think I've got it, and we've got a third of the job already done. And yeah, now comes the fun stuff. But yeah, so that's my week, and that'll probably be my next week too. Beyond that, you know, on my the other side, you know, me and some friends working on that gaming community business, Baby Brick, and yeah, we had a little issue. We used Telegram for our chat, for our community chat, and it's like we had about 200 members, and you know, due to some glitch, or either somebody, you know, reported the chat or whatever, it freaking, you know, got deleted and removed. And it's like, so we literally had a mad scramble on Thursday to like try and get it all reset up and like build a new chat and contact all our old members. And it's like, so yeah, like some hardcore behind the scenes what the fuck moments. Sorry, and it was like, but I think we're back, and I think actually right now the community is actively playing games, and you know, I need to join that challenge soon. But yeah, so that's kind of been my week, and it's keeping me extremely busy. But this week or this evening, I am going to attempt to get out to the shop. The cabinetry came in for my brother's house, and it's sitting there in my shop waiting on one more piece before we can bring it over there and install it. And it is where I had, some of my generators and some of my other stuff. So it's like everything is kind of like all over in the way, and I need to pull it out of the shop to work around it. And it's raining, so I'm gonna try and get out there later and figure out a way to maneuver things around so I can walk freely through and work. I've got a big old yellow generator, right there by my anvil because I'm trying to get it fixed and up and running. Um, so we'll see. I'll see what I can do. If I can't go live tonight, I might talk to my fellow co-hosts and see if one of them can cover. But if that's the case, I would probably sit there, have them put me up in the side window, and I'll be like, hi, I do exist. But maybe I can do a show where I work on that generator. I don't know. Y'all want to see me, putz around with a generator?
Well,
Hey,
all
Rakan.
mechanics do descend from blacksmiths.
Right. Rakan, welcome. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Rakan. He's one of my favorite gaming members from our little gaming, Baby Brick gaming community. So, it's like he is playing games day in, day out, in the chat, hanging out, and good guy. I've talked with him. He's a genuinely good guy. But yeah, so if any of the Baby Brick people are popping over to say hi, this is what I do every Sunday. These are my co-hosts. These are my, best friends in the world. That's, and yeah, absolutely. Every Sunday we have fun and chit chat about blacksmithing and blacksmithing related things. So today, it actually kind of nice segue there. Today we are talking pre-colonial America, specifically, or pre-Colombian South Americas. Like, are we going all the way into Central America, or are we pretty much staying in the Yucatan Peninsula and below?
And it's basically the whole South American continent. So
Okay, yeah. So
because I mean it's the metalwork in South America dates back about 2000 BC and started in the Andes area of Peru. So that's really where the working of copper and gold and silver really started. Much like North America, there was almost no. I mean, according to the information I have, Adam's information might contradict something I'm going off of because I'm just rattling off of memory what I read about. So yeah, about 2000 BC was the beginning of the metallurgy, so to speak, the refining and using of metal in the Andes region of Peru, and then from there it kind of spread out to like the Bolivia and Chile and whatnot, Ecuador. Of course, those countries didn't exist at the time, but where those countries are now, and a lot of things they did, like the one of the early Peruvian pieces. If you want to bring up that knife, is a good
yes,
example of early copper work. I actually have one of these that is a reproduction. That it was my what do you call it? My cousin's stepmom was from Peru, and she got one of these and a like saucer made out of copper. They're like what do you call them? Touristy type souvenir type things.
kitsch.
And she gave them to my grandparents, like I don't know, in the '80s or whatever. And after my grandparents passed, somehow I wound up with them, and so I've got one of these, and then a saucer that says Peru on it, and it's like kind of decorated with turquoise sand and stuff like that. But Anyways, yeah, and then another probably one of the most famous examples is the what's it called, raft.
Raft.
The Musica raft, and it's currently resides in the Gold Museum in Bogota, Colombia, which is the largest of 6 gold museums owned by the Central Bank of Colombia. And this was I don't know, there was some kind of
Man,
connection with this, and like what do they call it? Oh, I can't think of the dang name now. The the place that the conquistadors were looking for that didn't actually exist.
El Dorado.
El Dorado.
Yeah.
Which, side note,
But anyways,
is a great cartoon movie, and I might watch that after the show because it's such a good movie, and also an awesome song by the Dirty Heads. I recommend them. Continue,
there
please.
you go. Yeah. So and around, I would say, maybe 800 AD. The people in the Guatemala and Belize area developed depletion gilding. The Nahuang culture of Colombia produced a lot of ornamental gold, like rose gold and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know, shit. Going off the top of my head, it's I maybe should have tried a little harder. Anyways, with the Incas were probably one of the more prolific with metalwork. They probably had the most variety. Metal in the Incan Empire, like at Machu Picchu, like my background here is Machu Picchu, and they found metal artifacts there, like bolas, plumb bobs, chisels, gravers, pry bars, tweezers, needles, plates, fish hooks, spatulas, ladles, knives, bells, breastplates, lime spoons, mace heads, ear spools, bowls, cloak pins, axes, adzes, foot plows, etc. I actually had to read all that, but yeah, I mean, so they were really prolific metal users of metal in the Incan Empire, and they it wasn't just decorative. Like I know in the North American pre-Columbian civilizations, metal was mostly used as a decorative status symbol type thing, whereas the Incas saw it as, this is way better than the rocks we've been using, you know. And so they really dug in and developed that technology to the best of their ability with the time that they had. So iron was never smelted by Native Americans. Thus, the New World never entered a proper Iron Age before European discovery. And yeah, I'm gonna let Adam go from here and see what he's got while I kind of peruse some other stuff that I did not see earlier.
If I may get a word in before the deluge happens,
The deluge.
the deluge. Yeah, I was looking at that raft and I had it up on the screen, and man, the detail, the you can see the wire work and then the individual little people that has been, you know, attached to it, and it's like very obviously not a single piece build, not a casting, I don't think. So it's like very cool,
all woven together, and yeah,
woven together, and you know, like probably like, you know, shaped and forged in a sense, you know, shaped with tools, and just wow detail, you know. Very cool. So, all right. Everybody get your popcorn. All right. Let's go, Professor.
Okay, so all the information about the share comes from the r/ask historians thread on Reddit, and particularly So this is something I have started to really use in relation to a lot of the history that I look into, because it's really interesting, and you actually have access to historians as opposed to a hack historian like myself. So one question that was asked, which is really pertinent to this topic today, is how did the Aztecs manage to create beautiful and intricate gold items, but not manage to acquire other metals? How did the Aztecs acquire and work with gold? Now, this isn't entirely accurate in the sense of that, particularly in Mesoamerica, particularly Western Mexico and the Andean cultures. They had a rich traditions in bronze working before the Spanish conquest. So they did have bronze tools. Of course, we know they had copper tools, as Sully was just alluding to. So they did have access to other metals and used other metals in tools. Now, one thing that has been postulated as to why Mesoamerica, pre-Columbian America, didn't work into what we would classically call an Iron Age is essentially lack of wide-scale warfare. Whereas Europeans and Northern Africans, Middle East and China, most of that African Eurasian continental mass was well known and is well known for centuries for large-scale warfare. Really, it wasn't until the Incas and the Aztecs that warfare really took hold in the in South America, and there wasn't that wide-scale warfare in Northern America. On the North American continent. Of course, there was small skirmishes. There was tribal and local warfare and stuff like that, but nothing to the scale that Europeans experienced through history. So I just wanted to add some pre-context to what I'm about to read regarding that. So now, within regards to gold, this answer was provided by Mictlan Chulti, and actually splits the answer to this question on why the Aztecs were able to work gold so well into two parts. So first of all, quoting from chapter 15 from book 9 of the Florentine Codex, written by Friar Bernardo de Sahaguan, the Florentine Codex is one of the best sources that exists on contact and pre-contact life as it pertains to the Aztecs. The Florentine Codex was originally written in Spanish and Nahuatl, with the Spanish text on the left side of the page and Nahuatl on the right. And this is drawing from a translation done by Anderson and Dibble, who translated the entire Florentine Codex into English. So, in the 15th chapter, it's mentioned that all makers of fine ornaments are called master craftsmen in the Aztec civilization, the gold workers and the lapidaries. The first mentioned are the gold workers and the gold casters. These gold workers are each divided and separately classed as to their workmanship and their artisanship. Some were called smiths. These had no office but beat gold to thin it out and flatten it with stone wherever it was required. It was then polished and thinned. Some were called the finishers. So these were named as the real master craftsmen, and hence they were separate, for their tasks were two kinds, and they were deliberately separated. So here it's told how, in the 16th chapter, it's told how the craftsmen who cast precious metals fashioned their wares. So the craftsmen fashioned and designed objects by the use of charcoal and clay molds and beeswax molds to cast gold and silver. With this step, they made the beginning of their craft. To start with, he who presided distributed the charcoal among them, and they first ground it and pulverized it to a powder, to which they added a little potter's clay, and this clay served for ollas. They made the charcoal and clay mixture into paste, kneaded it, and worked it with their hands into a cohesive mass, and then prepared it just as in the manner of tortillas into flat cakes, which then they arranged out in the sun to dry. In 2 days, these cakes dried. They became firm and hardened. And when they had dried well, they were carved and sculpted with a small metal blade. If a good likeness to an animal was started, a core was carved to corresponding likeness. The form in nature that it imitated, so it would so that the metal, basically, so the metal would take the desired shape. Second. So I'm just trying to make this very confusing bit. It's obviously being translated, so it's very confusing. So if a bird was to be fashioned of gold, the charcoal clay core was carved. It was shaped to give it feathers, wings, and feet. The fisherman made it was carved so that the charcoal and clay mold would give it scales, and the side of the fins were formed, and its tail stood divided. Then this was mixed. The beeswax was mixed with white copal, so it would form and harden as well. Then it was purified and strained so that the foreign matter, dirt, and impure beeswax would fall. Then it was pretty much prepared like the clay cakes. Basically, then what was happened if they would actually melt the gold down and melt the wax out of these molds, pour the gold in to replace it, and basically like a lost casting method. Then the gold cast and gold beaters were also required to work copper, though it was only a little. They added it to silver solder to give it a binding power and to make it adhere. For if only silver were melted to use as solder, the article joined would shatter. It would break at the seams. And gold beaters, if in the times of old, hammered only gold. They smoothed it out and burnished it with a stone, and they worked it out a design along a black line with a stone. So first the feather workers made them a design, then they chased the design with a flint knife. They followed the black line from form the design with a flip knife. They embossed it. They went into relief work, copying just as a charcoal pattern in the same way that they manufacture objects today, wherever their work is needed. So, and then for finishing, they used sand, fine sand, either ground or pulverized, and mixed it with a bit of potter's clay, and which then dried in the sun, and then they would use it like a sanding stone, apparently. So that's an example of how they would work gold. Very, very labor intensive, but there was the two methods of either casting or using sheet and embossing or raising. So I found that rather interesting. So going back to the other one, so
I believe John had a question about how they hammered gold leaf because the leaf falls apart just brushing it.
Well, I was going to say that's because John used brass leaf, not gold leaf.
Yeah, that is true.
So gold, we've discussed this a long time ago. Sully actually did the episode, I think it was last year or the year before, where we actually talked about gold, and you can hammer gold, a pure gold. I think the lowest form of pure gold you can do this to is 14 carat, but you can hammer it down to basically an atom thick. It can be thinner than human hair. Gold is a very, very, very hardy metal, and it will hold together as long as you treat it right.
It's sticky.
You can draw gold into a wire, a one atom chain wire. Yeah, and the thing there is, John. Yes, gold leaf goes on the same way as brass, but brass does not adhere to itself as good as gold does. Like gold leaf
is sticky.
It's really hard to actually. I mean, it's not really hard to pull it apart. You get it on your fingers, you can mess it all up. But it is much more malleable than the imitation leaf. As Adam brought up, yes, you can hammer it into leaf that's one atom thick. Yes, it's delicate, but you can still do it.
Yeah, and normally,
And the leaf that we use in like gilding and whatnot is much, much thicker than that.
Yeah, and normally when you're making like gold leaf or whatnot, you don't actually hammer it bare. You do it. You get it down to I think it's about a millimeter thick, and then you start hammering it between and because you don't need to use as much pressure. I think the traditional method is you actually start hammering it between I think it's leather to begin with, and then you move down to thinner and thinner layers. Like you use what's the parchment that's made out of lambskin? I keep forgetting what it's called.
Um,
Uh,
Parchment.
It reminds me of linoleum, but yeah, it's basically what they used to make religious texts out of in Europe. But yeah, basically it's made out of lambskin, very very thin, very scraped lambskin, and then you move down to like reed paper
Vellum.
and stuff like that. So yeah, vellum. So yeah, so you hammer it between vellum and then and thinner and thinner layers of vellum, and then you hammer it between So basically, after a certain point, it actually never comes in contact with a hammer, and those vellum or paper sheets actually help maintain the integrity of the gold leaf. So yeah, so that's why gold leaf. It's a different process to just forging it out, and yeah. And unlike copper and other metals, gold really doesn't work harden. Pure gold doesn't work harden. Unlike silver and other metals, gold always retains.
If you get down into like 10 karat and below, that's alloyed with copper, that will work hard. If it's alloyed with silver, not so much. But the 10 karat and below that's alloyed with copper,
that's why I said pure gold, like from 14 karat onwards, generally doesn't work harden. And that's generally okay. Also, bear in mind that the only two types of gold that are naturally occurring are rose and yellow gold. White gold isn't naturally occurring; it is palladium coated. I know this because I used to work as a jeweler. White gold isn't a natural thing. So you can get rose gold leaf, and you can get yellow gold leaf. But
white gold used to be called electrum. It's a 50-50 alloy of silver and gold. It gives you a white gold.
Right.
But it's not. There is a certain amount of silver that naturally occurs in gold, but yeah, it's
we actually talked about electrum when we were discussing ancient Egypt, because I believe, if I recall our discussions before, they actually valued electrum over gold.
Right. See, and the difference being so electrum looks a lot like silver, but it doesn't tarnish. Like pure silver tarnishes, it oxidizes and gets that like black layer of silver oxide on it very easily and very quickly. Electrum, which is like a 50-50 mixture of gold and silver, will not tarnish it. It has almost a platinum look to it. Platinum's got a slightly different color though. But yeah, so electrum, it maintains. It's a little bit more malleable because of the gold, and it doesn't tarnish. So I mean, there are a lot of different qualities about electrum that made it quite desirable. And I mean, to the ancient cultures, gold wasn't like the most valuable thing in the world. It wasn't the base unit of trade for everything until the Europeans and whatnot.
Yeah. Yep. So in most parts of the world, and particularly this is particularly true in Mesoamerica as well, the base trade was never really metals. It was a food source. It was generally in most of Europe and stuff like that. It was barley, wheat, corn. Also, it wasn't corn, because corn wasn't introduced until the discovery of the Americas. But it was barley, wheat, and things like that. In most parts of South America, it was corn, it was other foodstuffs. even insofar as things like avocado. Avocado is a South American plant, which existed because that was the last place where giant sloths and stuff died off. So these were things that the intrinsic value of metals is a relatively modern thing. And I say relatively because, of course, we know that the Romans and earlier cultures did use gold as a measure of currency, but it was generally in regards to how much that it was equivalent to X amount of food or foodstuffs. And it's also a reason why a lot of cultures failed. I mean, as Sully was saying in last week's civilizations there, they a lot 400 years in one spot, and then a drought came and they all had to leave, or they died out, and then another mob came in and were there for 400 years after the droughts broke. So this is something that's always been attached to food. Now, yeah, basically that Neuron covers what I wanted to cover. I mean, there's a certain amount of, I can go into what I was saying earlier about warfare being a predominant reason why metals weren't further explored in the Americas as opposed to as Europe. So, like for example, we think of the stereotypical imagery you see of the Spanish conquest. Artifacts show that the Aztecs, Mesoamerican societies had an acute knowledge of creating copper alloys, and particularly with sound and color properties. And the leader of the Aztecs were more than decked out in gold and metal objects. However, items were almost exclusively religious or prestige, had no practical purpose. In West Mexico, items they've got musical items like bells and stuff like that. And the Moche civilization produced several items of jewelry. Why they didn't develop further into metallurgy then, in the Andes, where bronze working was well developed by 200 CE, the answer can be explained by lack of demand. In Europe, metallurgy developed for a few key reasons: transportation, agriculture, and warfare. However, there wasn't a demand for more advanced metallurgy in the Mesoamerican areas, at least not demand that had been created by the time of the Colombian encounter, for a few key reasons. First, there were no domesticated draft animals in America, apart from llamas, but llamas could only carry about 60 pounds, as opposed to horses and the like, which can carry several hundred. 200, 300, 400 pounds is not uncommon for a horse to be able to carry. And particularly if you coupled then that with carts, where two horses can carry several tons. There's if you've ever seen or heard of a bullocky dray or a donkey dray or a cattle dray, where it's basically an oversized wagon where they could carry tons and tons of logs or wool. And you see old photos of these massive wagons with they look 2 or 3 stories tall, because they were. And so this meant that transportation technology in the Americas was quote unquote primitive. They didn't develop chariots, horse-drawn wagons, which would have greatly boosted performance with metal wheels. Additionally, the rugged terrain of the Andes also held transportation back. It was much better, a pack animal like a llama that could carry things on foot, wasn't restricted by wheels, was much better than something that had wheels. In the realm of agriculture, the plow revolutionized crop yields in Eurasia. However, in Andean cultures, used terrace farming. Their plows that they invented couldn't be pulled by draft animals anyway. Of course, Sully was saying just before about the foot plows that they use. Using an animal pull, that was relatively useless. And then when it comes to the warfare, in the Andes, armor and weapons were almost entirely based on cloth. But cloth armor was also used in Europe and is highly effective, particularly against slashing weapons, but also against padded weapons. So if you an anti-archer and Todd Cutler from the Todd Cutler channel actually has a great series of videos on this, where a warbow can be stopped up to a certain poundage, of course, can be stopped with about an inch thick gambeson and chainmail. So that's no plate, just a textile armor and then chainmail. So a lot of injuries can be avoided with just textile armor. And then of course we look at there was laminated paper armor back in history as well, in Europe, in Northern Africa and stuff like that. So so metal wasn't a necessity at certain periods of time. What European cultures developed past textile and wooden technology, and the reason why metals became such an important thing is because it was an arms race between defense and offense. So because of the less warfare-based civilizations in America, they didn't have that necessity to develop those defenses and offensive capabilities. So whilst they were very well versed in copper and to a certain degree bronze, they never really needed to advance past that, because the culture by the time of Columbus's visit, because of course they were forced to move faster because of European invasion. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, I will say
I can go on.
I've been preoccupied here is it's like my with this new update with OBS. It's like it's saying YouTube looks like it's frozen, but everybody in the chat seems to be watching it. I don't know if it's if I'm paused.
I'm watching the YouTube stream and it's good.
Okay, yeah, because I'm getting errors on YouTube. I'm getting 9-10% drop frames on OBS. So it's like, yeah, if y'all say it looks fine, I mean, maybe it's just my internet's being weird. I don't know. Yeah,
the feed on my end's a little bit stuttery at times, but that's also because, as I said in the pre-chat, and for those of you that don't know, Australia recently had a massive telco issue. One of our major telecommunications providers actually went out across Australia for about half a day, and it's caused no end of dramas since then. So my internet's been having issues anyway. So that could be could be the reason why it's a little bit stuttery on my end there, Miss.
All right. Well, I am going out internationally, so hey, Mystic, how you doing? Yeah, so it's it's on the production side, it's throwing me off is probably what it is.
Yeah, no, and I can see it now. I wasn't really paying attention to it, or I wasn't really noticing it, but yeah, it is kind of choppy, like freeze, go, freeze, go, go. So
the video rates, the video rates like that, but the audio is fine. So
yeah,
okay,
and it's just like I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely a setting messed up in the OBS somewhere. It's basically doing the same stuff mine does all the time, and I'm just like, I don't understand. Why are you guys getting the spinning wheel of death when I've got perfect internet?
Yeah.
And it's all OBS settings that I haven't figured out. And OBS is telling me your primary stream and your backup stream don't match. Please match your stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
I will check out my OBS settings, but I don't think my output is still high video bitrate. Good audio bitrate, my fast encoder, and yeah, so it might literally be, you guys know how every now and then my internet, especially in like icky weather, just kind of, I live rural, it's like, yeah,
I had thought of that, because at the end of the day, everything, this is all going through your internet out to YouTube, so it could definitely be your internet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you guys will just have to suffer through it for this week.
And you know what? To be honest, as long as the audio is fine. Yeah.
Close your eyes and you're listening to it on Spotify.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it gets transferred over to Spotify. It's just that little like, I don't know if the chat noticed me like looking around and everything, and it's like, yeah. I've got, warning lights all over my computer, and it's like, apparently it's not that bad. Okay. Now it says excellent connection. Yay. All right.
Yeah, and I was in the middle of editing yesterday when you texted me like, "Hey, 7 days to die." I'm like, "Heck yeah!" Never did
Yeah.
finish it. Well, no, I did get that episode edited, but literally the last episode that I uploaded was Gilding with Roy, and I was like, "Oh my god, I am that far behind."
Holy moly.
Yeah. So like yesterday, I downloaded all of the episodes since then, and I got one of them edited, and I'll get it uploaded today, and then over tomorrow, the next day, I'll get the rest of them put up. But I didn't realize I was like 6 weeks behind.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we may have a special guest coming up in a couple of weeks. So just have to finally nail in some final details. They're a very busy person.
A very
so,
famous blacksmith.
Well, I know they're a fan of Roy's. They're absolutely enamored with Roy. They think Roy's legendary. Roy popped in. Yeah, Roy popped into one of their live streams, and they just about wet themselves. They were that excited. It was great.
It would be hilarious. It would be hilarious. I don't know if he's watching right now. I know Roy is. It would be hilarious as if we set it up so that, like, partway through the interview, Roy just hops on the Discord and be like, "Hey, I'm such a big fan. Hey, I'm such a big fan." And like, I'm so impressed with what like blah 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 blah. Have Roy go fanboy mode, like like when he met me. Like, oh my god, it's the Yames. Like, I learned everything I know from you.
Yep. So and
that might be a bit far.
Well, this Smith is also an international Smith, so they're not in the US and also not in Australia. I won't give away too much. I'm just giving a little bit of hint, so Roy might be able to pick up on who it is. But they kind of fit right into our niche. When we get them on to talk, if and when they're available, they'll be talking about a little bit of history. Also, they're very passionate about some of the topics that we are: inclusivity, mental health, and all that type of stuff. And they're also a very, very talented and I believe full-time Smith in their section of the world. So we might even talk a little bit of business practice and how they manage to support themselves while they're smithing as well. Because I mean, it's something that there's a few of us that aspire to be like Roy in the sense of making their living off something that they love doing, but we all know it can be rather hard to do, and also take that leap into leaving a regular job into going and doing what you do what we love doing full time. So yeah, so a little bit of a chat. So like I said, we just gotta cross a few T's and dot a few I's, or dot a few T's and cross a few I's. Make sure that we can get that happening. Hopefully that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. We won't keep you in suspense too long. And get that nailed in. I'm lucky enough that I've been able to actually talk to this Smith a couple of times. So yeah, that's he's hoping.
We've always wanted to do more guests on the show. So like if we can get this rolling and hopefully, we can search for more guests in the future that actually,
yeah. And that's something that we're definitely going to be aiming for going into the future as well. So we are getting towards the end of the year. It is getting back to, we're starting to decide what we're going into going to be covering for our next season, being next year. If you have any ideas, don't be afraid to either drop us an email or leave it in the YouTube community chat on Discord.
Anything but history.
Yeah, anything in history. We're early in discussions about covering tools and techniques next year. There will be a little bit of history
in a historical aspect.
Yes,
like delving into the who.
Yeah. or the what, or the the ages of certain things and when they were first developed or whatnot. So there will be a little bit of history, a little bit of science. Still, we're not moving too far away from our regular the way we regular operate. But but if you have any suggestions about what you want to cover, want us to cover next year, don't be afraid to flick us an email. And of course, that's at impracticalblacksmiths@gmail.com. Drop us an email there. Nice and easy. Remember the name of the show at gmail.com.
Which, speaking of
And
which,
and by all means, I mean, like over sometime here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a staff meeting and we're going to iron out the next 12 months. Just like, because the first year we kind of winged it. The second year it's kind of like, all right. It was really nice this year having everything kind of laid out ahead of time. This month we're going to do this. This month we're going to do that. And then at the beginning of each month, it's like, okay, this week we're going to do this. Next week we'll do that. The week after, and then so every Sunday we go, or Saturday night or Sunday we go, okay, this is what we're doing tomorrow. This is what we need to prepare for. Here's some information, et cetera, et cetera. And it really made things go a lot smoother than it's just then us showing up in the morning and go, hey, what do you guys want to talk about today?
yes.
I don't know. I was thinking maybe titanium. Well, I don't know. I was wanting to do wrought iron again, or something like that, where we're just going on the fly in the morning. And don't get me wrong, it is kind of nice every now and then to just wing it,
Pick a random topic.
And be like, hey, you know what? Let's do a viewer's choice today. Let's get in the chat and see what they want to talk about, and we'll research it on the fly and go with it. Those are fun from time to time, but boy, that really gets old when you're doing it every Sunday. So, here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to work on getting a schedule together for next year. And if you guys got any input, hit us on here, hit us a DM, an email, whatever, and we'll see if we can work it in somewhere or whatever. Because I mean, we do this show for you guys, so tell us what you want to hear about.
And one thing is, I can't believe we've been doing this for what, nearly 4 years now.
Yeah, we're going into season 4, and unfortunately, we don't really take breaks except for holidays, which brings up my my kind of not closing statement, but like we'll swap closing thoughts with this segment here, discussing the future. One thing that I am going to do is I'm going to give our tried and true and trusted thumbnail that you guys see every single Sunday a facelift. And I'm going to come up with a real nice, sleek, and less cluttered, in my opinion, and more variety, as opposed to it just being my logo with information on it. We're gonna do something nice for our thumbnail for the next season. And with that, also, I mentioned the holiday breaks and whatnot. We are pushing into holiday season, so expect that. I haven't actually looked at the dates and the calendar to find out what date, blah 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 blah.
Yep.
But there may be days around the holidays where, hey, we're going to take this break, not necessarily because we will technically be busy, but because everybody, it's like we don't want to add to burden, like Christmas weekend, for example. Like, don't worry about coming and watching us. At the most, what we would do is pre-record one and toss it up, for you guys to watch later.
Well, on that note, Christmas and New Year's both fall on a Sunday this year, a week apart. So we're probably going to be taking a break over Christmas and New Year, just because, hey, it's a holiday and we've got families, and you guys have families, and what, as much as you guys are all our family as well, and we do love you, we have personal families we do have to pay attention to as well.
Yeah. So
I will say it's highly likely that that'll be 2 weeks in a row that we'll be off. If they're both on Sunday, we won't be doing a show on the 25th or the 1st.
I wanted to let people know so I don't have them freaking out and messaging you, hey, you going live? No. Yep. Why not? You lazy blacksmith.
I I mean,
that
but
also,
in all honesty, that does give us 3 weeks, of break between season 3 and well, in the podcast it's season 2 and season 3, but for the
yep.
show for what we're doing, it's season 3 and 4 on YouTube, and that does give us a 3 week break to kind of decompress, I guess, a little bit because
Yeah.
I mean,
It
we do
as
do this
much
every
as
week, week
yeah,
out.
as much fun as it is, and I'll be honest, I haven't, like a long time ago, actually back when this all started, it's like I had that conversation about burnout because in addition to the show being going on its 4th year, or into its 4th year, like I've been streaming now weekly for almost, if not 6 years, since what, 2000, end of 2017,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I'm going into my 7th year streaming, and it's like it's nice to be able to be at a point where you can be like, all right, I'm going to take a break, and hopefully people don't freak out and move on. I mean, that happened. It's the reason why I have 3,500 subscribers and an average viewership on my live streams of 20 when it used to be 50 to 100 people. It's like, well, it's because I stopped fighting the YouTube algorithm and leaned into the live show. I love live shows,
And at the end of the day, I mean, it's so much work to manipulate the algorithm and get it working for you, so you get those people in. And I mean, like, for somebody like Roy, that's a necessary evil. I mean, Roy has to do that because that's his job. But we don't have to do that. So, I mean, like, yeah, I'm really not interested in getting that upload up every 3 days and a short every other day, and now.
Yeah, yeah, we're here for the way I view it. My subscriber number isn't really what matters. What matters is those who actually want to be here and participate in the live show. If you guys have friends or family that you think would be interested in hanging out on Sunday mornings, and in the live shows on Sunday evenings, invite them. If you're in a conversation on a forum or YouTube or wherever, Facebook,
Well,
I don't know.
and
Let them know what we do
there's
here.
something very unique about the show we do. A lot of like the people that are involved in this, in a lot of the people, I would say probably at least 60% of the people that are here on a regular basis, we've all met each other in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a YouTube live stream, that's pretty rare that you've actually hung out with somebody else that's in the stream in person.
Yeah.
In fact, it's pretty rare that somebody's real name. So, it's like we're doing the show for family because we for the most of us have all at least met some of the other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have, as Steve Parson just said, all you have to do if you want to subscribe like Roy is you have to sacrifice a little flux to the flux dogs. Actually, what we need
If
to
it were that
do is
easy.
we need to destroy some coins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we need to make some buy out of some coins and stuff like that, and really get the people annoyed.
I was just thinking of that because Roy was talking about copper being the poor man's gold, and I was just like, oh, I wonder what spot is on copper, and it's like $19.80 is a pound is spot on copper right now, and
Wait,
it just
copper's
got me
up?
thinking that the first time I bought a U.S. Silver Eagle was in 1989. I mean, it was a 1989 Silver Eagle. I bought it for $6, uncirculated. That was spot price on silver at the time, was $6. And I remember, like, the next year I went to the Gun and Knife Show, which is where I got it, and they had them, and they were $9 because spot at the time was like $8. I was like, ooh, well, that's a bit steep. I think I'll wait for it to go down. It's never gone down. I mean, it's been as high as like $30 an ounce on silver, but it's mostly been between like 13 and 22, and every time I wind up buying silver, I'll go down and I'll buy 10 ounces, I'll buy 20 ounces, something like that, and I'll put it away. And I always wind up buying high. I'll always wind up buying like 17 or something like that. And then there's some emergency will happen, like big time emergency, and I've got to sell my silver, and it winds up being like $3 an ounce less than what I bought it for, and I'm like, ah. And so yeah, so now when I buy them, I buy the ones that are slabbed, so that it's like I can't just go down and sell an ounce because I paid $275 for that proof eagle. But
So
Yeah,
so now let's getting towards the end of the show. Let's get on to final thoughts. I'm happy to go first.
of course. I mean, no,
Yep.
I'm just
Okay.
go right
So,
ahead.
all right.
I've already
So
done mine.
so before I get into to our outro, I just want to say it is the start of November here in the Northern Territory of Australia. It's now 1:42 a.m. on the 13th of the 11th. But considering we are a couple of days late, I just want to say it's not exactly happy Remembrance and Veterans Day, but I wish everyone out there, the veterans and those that are active serving, actually experienced a good Remembrance or Veterans Day wherever you are in the world. This Remembrance Day here in Australia was Remembrance Day here in Australia. I know it's Veterans Day there in America, where we recognise, celebrate, and reflect on past conflicts and the losses that we've incurred, and also the losses that we will incur. And remember that war is never a great thing, but sometimes it's a necessary thing to protect those that we care about, those the freedoms that we experience, and to protect those that are less fortunate than us, who do happen to live in free and prosperous countries. So I just want to extend my gratitude to those members serving, past, present, and future, and say thank you for your service wherever you are in the world, whatever side of any conflict that you're on, as long as you are participating in your duty with honor and integrity. I do have the utmost respect for you. It's not something that I've personally done or could do. I do have family members that are current and past serving. And of course, I use that time to remember their sacrifices, their losses, and the losses of my families in those conflicts leading up to now, which has ensured my freedom and the lifestyle that I enjoy. So thank you very much. And on that note, thank you for watching. You can find Alexis at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and geez, I'm doing this off the top of my head and I can't remember Facebook. You can find Yamez on at Island Metal Forge on YouTube, and you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Remember, we go live at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. That is currently 12:30 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time, but check that against your local times to be sure. And finally, thank you very much. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon, and Google Listen. And we generally upload every Wednesday. However, that sometimes is delayed depending on if Sally gets our episodes edited or not. But don't forget to give us a thumbs up on YouTube or a star rating on one of those platforms if you happen to listen to us on there. We really do appreciate it. Finally, thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate your company and your support, and we will catch you next time. Yamas, take it away with the ending, mate.
I just want to thank everybody, and I kind of did, in my discussion about where we've been, where we've come to, and where we're going. I just want to thank everybody, the viewers, those who have supported, this channel over the years, and I hope you guys find value in what we do, even if it's a value of everybody pile on Ben for a day. Big thanks to my moderators. This chat is like super clean. Nobody really has any problems. It's a great chat, and huge thank you to Adam and Alexis. Like them jumping in and basically giving the show structure. I don't know what I'd do. That the show probably wouldn't have gone on this long. So, massive appreciation to everybody, and you guys all have a wonderful day. Hope your weather's better than mine, and if I don't see you tonight, I'll see you next week. So you guys have a wonderful one, and go cause yourself some scars that you can talk about happily when you're an older person, or if you're already an old person, be careful, because scars, hurt. Anyway, there's my random ramblings. Y'all have a good one, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.